Food Safety and Regulatory with Cabot Creamery, joining us this afternoon to testify on H758, which is an act relating to banning the use of rodenticides. And we have taken, just for your knowledge, we've taken a certain amount of testimony both this session and then last year as well on this topic. And we're looking at the bill now and trying to figure out what to do. So helpful to have your testimony. And if you wanted to start by introducing yourself, and then we can get going.
Sure. So I'm Dan Wadika. I'm the VP of Food Safety, Quality Assurance, and Regulatory Compliance here at Agrimark. I've been in the food industry for my entire career, 20-some years, exclusively in the food safety and quality and regulatory realm. Been kind of around the country. I worked in Iowa and Michigan and Ohio and Oregon, and now I'm here in Vermont.
Welcome. How long have you been in Vermont?
Since last July. So
okay, so you're still figuring out your way around. This is your first time to the State House, then?
It is.
Okay. Well, we're happy to have you. So yeah, we're happy to hear anything that you might want to tell us about your thoughts on the bill.
Sure. So I prepared something, if that's all right.
That's absolutely fine.
Great. So Agrimark's probably well known to this group. Our hundreds of farmer owners provide the milk that supports our 3 manufacturing facilities here in Vermont, where we employ hundreds in manufacturing the best cheese, yogurt, sour cream, and other dairy products in the country. Just last week, Agrimark won 17 top awards in the American Championship of Cheese Contest, a competition that attracts companies from around the country and Europe. New employees at Agrimark learned that we have 2 top priorities, and they are personnel safety and food safety. This helps ensure that all of our employees return to their homes at the end of the day without injury, and that our consumers trust our brand to provide delicious, nutritious, and safe products with every experience. A fundamental part of ensuring the safety of those products is an effective pest control program. Pests, including mice, birds, insects, are naturally attracted to food manufacturing facilities where they can find sustenance and protection from predators. Unfortunately, those pests are also a well-known transmission vector for various human diseases, including Salmonella, Vibrio, and Staphylococcus aureus. To protect the national food supply, both the FDA and the USDA require an effective pest control program under Titles 9 and 21 of the Code of Federal Regulations. Rodenticides, like that affected by the legislation at hand, are the industry standard, and they are a critical component in those programs. They have been used in every facility where I've been responsible for pest control. The rodenticides in question are located around the exterior of the buildings in locked traps that are weighed to stay in place. Barring some bizarre circumstance, only licensed pest control operators that are trained to handle these agents can access those boxes. They do that on a routine cycle every few weeks or days or months. Production facilities, like ours, do not store any rodenticides outside those that are actively used in the traps. In discussion with our pest control operator, it is not clear what alternatives to the current anticoagulant rodenticides would be available were the ban to proceed. My concern is that without these agents, food manufacturers in Vermont would be unable to meet the federal requirements and the industry standards that ensure our food supply is unadulterated by pest activity.
I just want to go back to the comment you made a moment ago. So the traps are all outside your buildings.
All the traps that include rodenticides, yes.
Okay, and then inside?
Inside, we have traps, but there's no bait in them. It's just they're meant to capture.
Like a mouse trap, or something a little bit larger, perhaps. I'm sorry, this sounds like a naive question, but and maybe I'm setting you up, but how would a mouse get inside?
Inside the exterior traps?
Get inside the facility.
A door that was propped open, or a door that didn't quite have a good seal. We're loading and unloading trucks all day long, so one of those means.
So an open door. Um, are there, I don't know how new or old your manufacturing facilities are, but if the doors were closed, would there be ways for mice to get inside?
I mean, not generally, but there are times where, people are exiting and entering the building. Trucks are being loaded and unloaded. So there are still opportunities, which is why these programs are important.
Committee members, questions, Representative Bosland?
Yeah, so you mentioned how only certified people can access the traps. And that sounds good, except that the concern is that the mice that go in and access the poison and come out get eaten and move up the food chain. So that's where our concern is in terms of the environmental impact. So I guess I want to answer one of your questions, because you had said if we got rid of rodenticides or scaled back on rodenticides, you don't know what we would do. And we've actually taken a fair amount of testimony about that last year and this year. This year we heard from one food provider that was a grain producer, and they actually were a test site looking at birth control for mice. So basically they had, the trap for the mice was they would eat the tainted bait, right? And then it became birth control for them, so they wouldn't reproduce. And they noticed in that study, they were able to notice an ongoing 83% reduction in rodents. We also heard from I can't remember if it was California or Hawaii, where there was a sort of a motorized type of system where they had almost like a spring trap. And if a rodent came inside, it would zap them, and then you would basically, that one was done for. So there wasn't any poison, but the rodent, it could be as big as a squirrel, would be killed by the mechanized kind of equipment. So we did hear about places that have scaled back on rodenticides and have utilized some of these alternatives. And I guess what we're looking at, or what I think we're looking at, is not ruling out all rodenticides in every single situation, but scaling back so that we have less of them entering the food chain because of the environmental benefit.
Okay.
I mean, have you heard of those kind of other alternative techniques? Because they're out there. None of them are 100% at any one site, but also clearly whoever's working with you isn't 100% either, because they have to keep coming back.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if the rodenticides work to stop all the rodents, then they wouldn't have to come back a month later or 2 months later or 3 months later, right? If it's a recurring problem, if you have to keep treating it, that's going to be true with whatever methodology you're going to use, everything.
Yeah. So when they're coming back and looking at the exterior traps, they're usually replacing the bait. So it gets moldy over time.
Yeah.
So they're replacing anything that was eaten.
Yeah.
So that's really why they're visiting it. I can only share regarding the other mechanisms that our pest control company has heard of them. He mentioned a few of those, but it didn't sound to me like they were actively in use by industry, at least not by our pest control provider. And that's not to say that they're impossible. I mean, obviously it's working, but just not commonly used by our company.
Representative Nelson.
Well, what happens if you find evidence of rodents inside the plant?
So
Droppings or what have you or whatnot?
it's a big issue, right? Because we've got to understand if anything's been affected, any product's been involved. We've got to figure out how they got in. And it could be pretty significant. We could hold a lot of product and withhold a lot of inventory from commerce.
Then you have to test that product, or do you have to?
I mean, it'd be difficult to test for things. So we will probably take the side of caution and trash it.
I think we heard, so to Representative Bosland's illustration, I think that was in California, where that particular alternative method of dealing with of controlling the pests was being marketed. And I believe we heard testimony also that California has enacted a ban at some level anyway on the various types of rodenticides. you mentioned other states, but you hadn't worked in California.
Nope, haven't worked in California.
Yeah, is that anything you're familiar with what they're doing there?
No, I couldn't say what California is.
Representative O'Brien?
Yeah, so Dan, are you sort of in charge at Agrimark for hiring the pest control companies?
Yeah, I would have influence on the contract that we pick. Yeah.
And so is it just for Vermont, for example, like Cabot, Middlebury, Waitsfield, are those all the same company? Pest control company that you have to do those, or even Chattagate, or is that different?
Yep. If I remember correctly, all of our facilities in the same company, and
In
they.
West Springfield?
Correct.
Wow, okay. So I was just wondering, yeah, if there were different strategies, but it was the same company, right?
Yeah, we actually use the same company, and they use the same rodenticide at all of our facilities. Yep.
Can you tell us what that is?
The brand name is called First Strike, if I remember correctly.
Where's that company out of?
I don't know.
Representative-
Yeah, I'm sorry. Did you mean the
Pest control.
pest control? Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you meant the manufacturing
No.
company. Pest control company is based in New Jersey.
They're a national company.
I never heard
Regional
of
company, anyway.
at least a regional. Yeah.
Representative Bartholomew?
So, we alluded to some alternatives that may be not in common use. I'm just sitting here wondering if you're a pest control company and this is the tool you always use because that's what you're used to using. If suddenly you can't use that tool anymore, might that give you incentive to try the other tools that are more effective or less damaging to the environment? Just maybe they're just using it because it's just what they're used to. It's what they got in stock rather than going out and finding alternatives that are out there. Because obviously for the past 2,000 years, we have been looking for ways to control rodents. And we're not winning, but we do have some tools. And I would think that in this day and age of technology, they've got to come up with some better mousetrap.
So releasing cats throughout the facility probably wouldn't be a good option.
Depends.
I was wondering, and you've already answered the question, but whether a company the size and scale of Cabot would have its own licensed applicator on staff, somebody who was responsible for facilities who might handle the pest control piece. But it sounds like in your case, at least, in Cabot's case, that's not the way that's being handled.
Correct. Yeah, we do not handle the rodenticides. None of the companies I've worked for have had a licensed pest control operator on staff. It's something that everybody in the industry outsources.
Good, thank you. That's very helpful. Yeah.
But you use a licensed rodenticide person? I mean, just do it, have someone do it themselves, like go to the store and buy some.
No, none of our employees go out and handle these things. No.
Representative Nelson?
Yeah, part of that is if it's depending on what schedule it is. I can't buy not decon, but Raid Wasp Killer and go to your house and spray for wasps. Legally, I can't do it. So they couldn't have someone that wasn't licensed applying bait at their facility. Legally. That's how that world works.
Sorry, I'm going to break my own committee rule here and ask Representative Nelson a question. If I wanted to have mouse poison in my basement, could you go to the store, buy it, and come in and put it in my basement? Or
I could not because I have a private
yeah,
applicator's license. I'm not a commercial. There's
Yeah.
a difference there.
Yeah.
You could go buy your own.
Yeah.
As long as it wasn't second generation.
yeah,
Which
Ones-
is,
the ones that are
which is
currently allowed.
currently restricted. The other ones you could use.
thank you, Representative Boston.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, I just found the language from what I was trying to remember it. So they describe it as electronic rodent monitoring, the mechanized machines. And in Colorado, there's actually a rodenticide bill that passed that was kind of a compromise between the environmentalists and the pest control community. And basically what it says is that you have to have an active electronic rodent monitoring with authorized applicators. And that's like your tier one system. If that doesn't work and the applicators say this isn't working in this particular case, then they can have access to using the rodenticides on a limited basis. So it's kind of it's like the rodenticides are still available in some cases, but it's as a backup plan, trying to use these alternative methods first. And like in that particular case, the compromise that they came up with in Colorado, California also has policies similar to this. And the California Pest Management Association actually was in support of that methodology. So these are new. I know these are new because there aren't a lot of states that have gone these routes yet, but it does seem like there are states that are finding new ways forward to try and minimize rodenticides and maximize other kind of methodologies. And I'm hoping maybe we can find one of those for Vermont. We'll see.
Okay.
Other questions? Representative O'Brien.
Do you have, we're talking about integrated pest management to some extent here. Do you have conversations with the New Jersey-based company about, because Steve Gunnell, who's at the Agency of Ag now, who actually, I think, managed some of these companies in the past in Florida, said, there's certain strategies, like first thing you do is, where are the rodents coming from, or can we reduce their numbers without rodenticides or killing them? So do you have conversations like that? Like, oh, it seems like Cabot, for whatever reason, is the plant that has the most pest pressures.
Yeah, absolutely. So if there's a bunch of activity in a certain area, we try to figure out is there a safe area for them? Is there something that's allowing them to breed that area? So, we kind of, in the food safety realm, we talk about the hurdle effect, which is oftentimes you're not just putting one barrier in place, you're putting a whole bunch of barriers in place. So the pest traps of the rodenticides is one of those steps that we use. Yep.
Representative Lipsky.
Yes, thank you. We've heard earlier testimony of the prolific reproduction of these rodents and mice and those rats. So, the deck is stacked against homes, food producers. So just expanding army that's after the food and food. So, and you say if rodents are found, indication in the building, have to get rid of whatever maybe they could have been suspected of contaminating.
Mhm.
How many pounds, tons, and hundreds of thousands of dollars or tens of thousands of dollars worth of product has Cabot had to dispose of typically annually?
For all reasons entirely, or specifically for pest control?
It's pest control is
Okay.
what we're really most concerned with.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think we have, at least not since July, since I started with the company. But that's because we have, the current program in place with the antiviral and rodenticides.
You're saying you haven't had to get rid of any product
Not for
since July.
a pest control issue, no.
The program is effective in that sense, or at least using the last 8 months as a illustration. All right, yes, Representative O'Brien.
As a fan of your cheeses, they're obviously not all, from dairy cows. So when you have pepper jack or habanero or something like that. Are those ingredients also tested? Like, could that trail go bad? Like your sourcing of that, could they have been exposed to rodents at some point?
Yeah, I mean, pest control is a standard practice in every part of the food industry, for all those reasons, including on the farms. You know, they've got the similar issues. I mean, if you've got a silo full of grain, there are lots of animals out there who would like to enjoy that just as much as we would.
So do you test though, you know, like the pathogens you were talking about earlier that could come in with your ingredients? Is there testing done for that to see?
Oh, yeah, our suppliers test, you know, it depends on the risk profile of the specific ingredient, but when there's a risk, they do a lot of testing. Yep.
I've been to the Cabot facility back when there were tours available to the public. I'm familiar with the facility in Middlebury, not with the others, I think. I guess I'm wondering whether your facilities are in sort of developed areas, built up areas, or are they on the edge of the woods, near water? Can you give us a sort of a summary?
Yep. So you've been to the Cabot campus, right? So we've got 2 manufacturing plants there.
In Cabot Village.
Yep. Yep. And there's the creek that runs right by there. Cabot's obviously not a big town, but it's, you've been to Middlebury, which is a bigger town. Our other facilities are in Chattagay and West Springfield. You know, when we built the West Springfield facility forever ago, there was nothing there. But now it's a big city. There's quite a lot going on there. Chattagay is probably more like Cabot. It's one street light, you know, gas station or two.
Which probably isn't terribly relevant since I don't think we have much control over what happens across the lake or.
That's where they make macadam cheese.
Sure is.
Great product.
Is any other questions? All right, anything else you want to add?
No, I appreciate the opportunity to talk to you today.
Thanks for coming in. I'll just mention for the committee's sake that tomorrow we have Fish and Wildlife is coming in on this bill, Department of Fish and Wildlife, and they asked to have the Agency of Ag come in as well. We'd already taken some testimony last week or 2 weeks ago now, whenever, from Steve Joynell and Dave Huber. They're coming back. I said, that's fine. In fact, maybe we'll have new questions that we want to ask them. They both testified last year too, on when we were having this general conversation, and maybe they've got new data to share. But I think that's the only testimony that we've got left scheduled anyway. So we'll want to try and be thinking what.
Oh, for this bill.
For this bill, yeah. What are we doing next there? So. All right. I guess we can be at ease for 5 minutes. Ellen.